All right, now we're going to do the second part of this video. I'm going to talk about the travel patterns of our Messiah and various people groups throughout history as well as in the future prophetically. And we're going to put it all on the map here and tie it all together, and I think you're going to love it. Okay, so what you need to know about the Bible is it's written here a little, there a little. That way, if you read it, just like if you're reading like a devotional and you're just reading straight through chapter by chapter, you might miss things because God wants us to search it out here a little, there a little. Like Isaiah 28, 9, 10 says, "Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breasts. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little." Little bit by little bit, we're going to learn this thing. Speaking of that, milk, breasts. Okay, Jerusalem is a city with these three valleys in it, or these three hills, and it looks like the Hebrew letter Sheen. Okay, looks just like the Hebrew letter Sheen. And I just wanted to jump in here and make a quick editorial comment on how Jerusalem is shaped like the letter Sheen and how it has something to do with us being fed from a breast. Okay, so the city of Jerusalem is shaped like a letter Sheen, and this is Sheen in Hebrew here. It's not Shin, it's Sheen, and you can tell whether it's the Sheen or the Seen based on where the Dagesh mark is. So this is the Dagesh mark. It's over here. It makes the sh sound, and over here it's the s. Okay, and then this is just kind of what Jerusalem looks like. It's like, and if you're gonna write God's name, the Sheen is El Shaddai. This is what it looks like, El Shaddai. Okay, and El Shaddai, if you're gonna write God's name in one letter, it would be using this. So if you're going to write God's name in shorthand, it would be just a Sheen by itself. Okay. So, but what does the Sheen mean? It means El Shaddai, and that when we see that in our English Bibles, it means the Almighty. So every time you see the Almighty translated into our Bibles, it's this word here, El Shaddai. And what does it mean in Hebrew? It means fed from the breast. Okay. Now, there's no confusion here. God is a man, but he's designed his word to tell us about him. Like he wants to feed us from the breast, okay? He wants to feed us the pure milk of the word. And then when we're ready, we can transition from milk to meat, okay? So I just wanted to jump in and share this with you and about Sheen and what the Almighty and what fed from the breast means. And now I'm going to show you just a couple images and then we'll jump back in. Okay, so I'm going to show you an image here. This is an old map of Jerusalem, and you can clearly see the three big valleys that divide Jerusalem here. So this is God's name, El Shaddai, written on the city of Jerusalem. So it's a city, it's got his name written on it directly, okay? And then here's a modern day image. This is looking toward the northeast, and you can clearly see the three big valleys that show the city. And then here you got the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. And there's a place here called the Dome of the Tablets, this little tiny thing up here. And this is where the old temple used to be and where the Ark of the Covenant used to rest. And it faced east and out the Night Corner Gate. And then on the other side was the Mount of Olives that it faced. So whenever modern day rulers or any political leaders or any kind of faction, they're trying to make a peace deal and they want to divide Jerusalem, what they're doing, since God's name is literally written on this city, when they cut up his name, it's not good. Okay, God is very angry with that, and God will punish that. And God's name is literally written on our hearts. You can clearly see the Sheen written on the chambers of the human heart. Every one of us has God's name written on our hearts. Praise God. And here's another image of the heart. See the Sheen. Okay, back to our lesson. This is a representation of the temple facing east. The openings are east. And so, talk about that. And the first one we're going to hit here, the highlighted journeys that I'm going to discuss. The first one, when Israel enters the promised land on the 10th day of the first month right here. So what did Israel do? I'm going to read you the scriptures first, and then I'll draw it out. Joshua 3:5 and onward. And Joshua said unto the people, Sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. And Joshua spake unto the priests, saying, Take up the ark of the covenant, and pass over before the people. And they took up the ark of the covenant, and went before the people. And the Lord said unto Joshua, This day will I begin to magnify thee in the sight of Israel, that they may know that, as I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. And thou shalt command the priests that bear the ark of the covenant, saying, When ye are come to the brink of the water of the Jordan, ye shall stand in the Jordan. And Joshua said unto the children of Israel, Come hither, and hear the words of the Lord your God. And Joshua said, Hereby ye shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Jebusites. Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth passeth before you into the Jordan. Now therefore take you 12 men out of the tribes of Israel, out of every tribe of man, and it shall come to pass, as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests that bear the ark of the Lord or of all the earth shall rest the waters of the Jordan, that the waters of Jordan shall be cut off from the waters that come down from above. So somewhere up here. And they shall stand upon a heap. And it came to pass, when the people were moved from their tents to pass over Jordan, and the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as they bare the ark were come unto Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bare the ark were dipped in the brim of the water, for Jordan overfloweth his banks at this time, at all the time of harvest. So remember, I told you it was the 10th day of the first month, 110, that they crossed over. This is the time of the harvest, was the barley harvest, which is roughly the 16, 17, 18 of the first month. That's the harvest that it's referring to. That the waters which came down from above, it's in the springtime, stood and rose up upon a heap very far from the city Adam, that is beside Zarentan. And those that came, and I want Adam is the same letters as Edom here, which means red. That's why the hills are red. If you notice from my Petra pictures, the hills and the dirt kind of looks reddish. It's Edom, reddish, okay? Same letters as Adam in the Hebrew. That is beside Zarentan, and those that came down towards the sea of the plain, even the salt sea, failed and were cut off, and the people passed over right against Jericho. Jericho's up here. So they crossed here, and then they went up to here. And the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all the Israelites passed over on dry ground until all the people were passed clean over Jordan. And it came to pass, this is chapter 4, when all the people were clean passed over Jordan, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, Take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe of man, and command ye them, saying, Take you hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones. And ye shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place where ye lodge this night. So they crossed, they took the stones from the middle of the Jordan, and then they carried them to Gilgal, which means circle. And this is the place where the tabernacle was erected, and it stayed for, I think, 300 some years. But Gilgal is right there, ancient Gilgal. Then Joshua called the 12, and I showed you the pictures of those standing stones. Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had prepared of the children of Israel, out of every tribe of man. And Joshua said unto them, Pass over before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of Jordan, and take ye up every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, that this may be a sign among you. Sign, that word in Hebrew, we'll talk about that another time. That when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What mean ye by these stones? Then ye shall answer them, that the waters of Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over Jordan, the waters of Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be a memorial unto the children of Israel forever. And the children of Israel did so as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones out of the midst of the Jordan, as the Lord spake unto Joshua, according to the number of tribes of the children of Israel. He's very specific. He's like, there's 12 stones on both sides, and carried them over with them to the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. And Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests which bear the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there to this day. So that's the second pile of stones. So the one pile is here, and the second one is here at Beth Bar. That's what I showed you at the baptism site. So I'm going to draw this out. So Israel was wandering in the wilderness down here for 40 years. And as they entered this last year, they came up to Mount Hor. This is where Aaron died. That's where his body is. Then they came up here on the Wadi Moab. came here, went up Mount Nebo, boom, Moses dies. Then when they entered, they came straight west, past Elijah's Hill to Bethabar, House of Passage. They crossed the Jordan here. They took the 12 stones, brought them to here, left the other 12 stones at the crossing site, and they went across to Gilgal. They set up, and this is where they were circumcised as well after they crossed on this 10th day of the first month. They went to Gilgal, set up the tabernacle, and then they continued their military conquest of the Holy Land. So the first one was Jericho right there. Jericho, remember, they compassed about it for 7 days in a row, and on the seventh day, they went around it 7 times, and they blew the trumpets, and the walls of these megalithic stones just fell out, and then they conquered Jericho. And from there, they went on and conquered the rest of the cities. The second city being Ai, by the way. That was the name of the second city. You can look that up. It's a bizarre name for a city, but Ai was the second one after Jericho. So that's how they entered the Promised Land. And just note this pattern. You're going to see this pattern over and over. Okay, the second one. David flees Absalom. So you remember David, his son Absalom, wanted to kill him because he wanted the kingdom first. He didn't want to wait for David to die, so he was going to hurry things along. But the pattern that David escapes out of the city, you're going to see this again. So, and this also happened on the 10th day of the first month. Noticing a pattern here? All right, I'm going to read from 2 Samuel 15:30. It says, "And David went up by ascent of Mount Olivet and wept as he went up and had his head covered, and he went barefoot, and all the people that was with him covered every man his head, and they went up, weeping as they went up." These are big mountains right here. So he left Jerusalem, and he went to the Mount of Olives, to Olivet, and this X here is the place where Jesus went up to heaven. There's a church structure built on this spot to mark the spot, and it's called the Chapel of the Ascension. And it's directly east of where the old temple used to be, because it's not there today. The Temple Mount is still there, but the temple is gone. But the temple faces east, and it looks directly at the spot where Jesus ascended from. And that's where the Garden of Gethsemane is as well. Okay, so David went here. Let's see what else he did. 2 Samuel 16, verse 1. "And when David was a little past the top of the hill, behold, Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, met him with a couple of asses saddled," remember that, "and upon them 200 loaves of bread and 100 bunches of raisins and 100 of summer fruits and a bottle of wine. And the king said unto Ziba, What meanest thou by these? And Ziba said, The asses be for the king's household to ride on, and the bread and summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine, that such be faint in the wilderness may drink. And the king said, Where is thy master's son? And Ziba said unto the king, Behold, he abideth at Jerusalem, for he said, Today the house of Israel shall restore me the kingdom of the father." So, what David did when he escaped out of the city is he left Jerusalem. He went east. I'm going to try to draw this as steady as I can. He went to the Mount of Olives. He picked up the 2 asses, came down here. Remember the word Chamar? That's what we're talking about here. Came down the hill, because you have to come down. There's only one way down this mountain, down through Bethany. And then, guess what? Crossed at Bethabara. And then from there, he went up to Ammon's, where he escaped to. Seeing a pattern? Okay, now we're going to talk about the third one, Jesus' triumphant entry. And it's also on the first day of the 10th month. I'm sorry, the 10th day of the first month. How about that? All right, so we're going to talk about that. Luke 19:28 through 41. "And when he had thus spoken, he went before, ascending to Jerusalem." Ascending up, it says. And ascending up meaning he went, like, this is 1,300 feet below sea level. As you climb up to 2,800 feet above sea level for Jerusalem, it's quite a climb. And it's a very short distance up these mountains. When you're looking at it, I showed you the pictures, you could see that it's like a sheer wall. I mean, it's very, very steep climb to go up these. It's a 38, like 4,000 foot elevation change going up in a very short distance. "And when it came to pass, he was come nigh to Bethpage," which is right here. "Come nigh to Bethpage and Bethany." Here's Bethany. at the mount called the Mount of Olives, and he sent two of his disciples, saying, Go ye into the village over against you, into the which at your entering ye shall find a colt tied, wherein yet never man sat. Loose him and bring him hither. And if any man ask you, Why do you loose him? Thus shall ye say unto him, Because the Lord hath need of him. And when they were sent their way, and found even as he had sent unto them, and as they were loosing the colt, the owners thereof said to them, Why loose ye the colt? And they said, The Lord hath need of him. And they brought him to Jesus, and they cast their garments on the colt, and they sat Jesus thereon. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. And he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives. The whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they had seen, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord. Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. That's what they were saying. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto them, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these shall hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it. So Jesus came up the hill, Bethany. This is where he spent the night in Lazarus' house of affliction. Came up to Bethpage, and then he picked up the two animals. One of them was a kamar, and then went to the Mount of Olives, and then descended. And then this is the road here of the procession as they came into the city, where they laid palm branches, and they were calling out, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. So blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. John 12:12. On the next day, much people that were come to the feast. What feast was it? Passover. When they heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, took branches of palm trees and went forth to meet him and cried, Hosanna, blessed is the King of Israel that cometh in the name of the Lord. And Jesus, when he had found a young ass, sat thereon, as it is written, Fear not, daughter of Zion. Behold, thy king cometh, sitting on an ass's colt. And these things understood not his disciples at the first. But when Jesus was glorified, then remembered they that these things were written of him, and that they had done these things unto him. Okay, so Jesus, he could have come straight down to Jerusalem for the crucifixion, but no, he had to fulfill this pattern. So he came down. I don't know exactly how he came down, but I'm just going to draw a line. He came down to Jericho. And then from Jericho, he went across the Jordan, came out here, somehow turned around, and then came back through. Same spot, the house of passage. And then he climbed up Bethany. This is the only way up. And then up to Bethpage, picked up the two animals, started at the Mount of Olives, where he was going to be ascended from, and then into the temple, where he kicked out the money changers. All right, now we're going to go on to Christians fleeing Jerusalem. This was on the 17th day of the first month. And this happened, I think this was in 67 AD, and this was back when the Roman army surrounded Jerusalem before the final siege of the city, which killed over 1 million people, and it was really horrible. It's just awful. But these were the believers in Jerusalem that read their Bibles and did what the Bible said for them to do. Luke 21:20 says, And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. So they saw the Roman army was setting up a siege wall around Jerusalem. And I forgot the name of the ruler at the time who was leading that army, but when they were recalled to Rome for some kind of administrative thing where there were some kind of change of command or something, but they went back, and in that time period, it gave time for the Christians to escape. And we shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let them not which are in the countries enter thereunto. So, when the believing Jews and the Gentiles read this verse, they know this verse. They saw Jerusalem being surrounded. They left. They went down the hill. They crossed Guess where the most convenient place to cross is? Oh, the house of passage, Bethabara. Then when they crossed, they went up to this city called Pella, which is the city of refuge. They went up here. And this is where they waited it out. Now we're going to talk about the Jews fleeing the Antichrist in the future. So this is during the 7-year tribulation. The Jews are going to flee the Antichrist. And here's all this. There's a lot of scriptures with this one because I want to drive this point home that this is really going to happen, and this is prophesied, and 1/3 of all Israel will be saved. Okay, 1/3 physically saved. So they're going to leave Jerusalem, and they're going to escape down here to Petra. They're going to live in the cleft of the rock, which we show lots of pictures of. Okay, so I'm going to show you how they're going to go. We're going to start reading in Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. And this is in the future. So this is in the midpoint of the tribulation, and this is going to occur on the 17th day of the first month, okay, on Passover, right after Passover. When ye shall therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Flee again, same direction. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. You're going to leave in a hurry. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not into the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor shall there ever be. And except those days be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. And then Mark 13:14 says, but when ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, this is just another way of looking at it, standing where it ought not, let the reader understand. Then let them which be at Judea flee to the mountains, and let him which is on the housetop not go down into his house, neither enter therein to take anything out of his house. And let him which is in the field not turn back again for to take up his garment. So don't even go back to get your coat. But woe to them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. Because they got a long journey down here to Petra. It's a long way. And pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, for in those days shall be affliction, such as was not from the beginning of the creation, which God created unto this time, neither shall be. And except the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved. But for the elect's sake, whom he hath chosen, he has shortened the days. The Jews are his chosen people. Okay, he's going to save the first Holocaust. 1/3 of all the Jews in Europe were murdered. Okay, in the second Holocaust, this will happen. 2/3 of all the Jews will be murdered. 1/3 will escape down here. Psalm 60, verse 9. Who will bring me into the strong city in the rock? Who will bring me into the strong city? Who will lead me into Edom? Edom. Red. Jeremiah 48:28. O ye that dwell in Moab, leave the cities and dwell on the rock, and be like the dove that maketh her nest in the sides of the hole's mouth. They're going to come down here. Isaiah 26:20. Come, my people, enter into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast, meaning the tribulation. For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth also shall disclose her blood, and shall no more cover her slain. So that's the purpose of the tribulation, is to save the Jews and to punish the earth for its iniquity. It will happen. Exodus 33:21. And the Lord said, behold, there is a place by me, and thou shalt stand upon a rock. That's what Petra means. Petra means rocks. It means the rock. And it shall come to pass. Well, in Greek, it's Petros. And it shall come to pass, while my glory passeth by, I will put thee in the cleft of the rock, and will cover thee with my hand while I pass by. Song of Solomon 2:14. O my dove, thou art in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs. Let me see thy countenance, let me hear thy voice. For sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely. Beautiful. Psalm 17:8. Keep me as the apple of the eye, hide me under the shadow of thy wings. For the wicked that oppress me from my deadly enemies will compass me about. Micah 2:12. I will surely assemble, O Jacob, all of thee. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together as the sheep of Bozrah. Bozrah's right here. I will put them together as the sheep of Bozrah, as the flock in the midst of their fold. They shall make great noise by the reason of the multitude of men. In Luke 17:28. Likewise, also as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold it, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, he went out here and then across. Same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. So this whole plain, the valley of Siddim, was destroyed. And the ash remains are still there, by the way. You can go visit them over here. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day, he which shall be upon the housetop, and his stuff in the house, let him not come back to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Remember, there's one on this side and there's one on the other side. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. So they need to leave in an absolute hurry and get over here and then get down. Get out of Jerusalem. Get out of Israel, or they're going to be slaughtered. Isaiah 13. Hear ye that are far off, what I have done, and ye that are near, acknowledge my might. The sinners in Zion are afraid. Fearfulness hath surprised the hypocrites. Who among us shall dwell in the devouring fire? Who among us shall dwell with everlasting burnings? That's what Holocaust means. It means a burnt offering. He that walketh righteously and speaketh uprightly, he that despiseth the gain of oppressions, that shaketh his hands from holding of bribes, that stoppeth his ears from hearing of blood, and shutteth his eyes from seeing evil. He shall dwell on high. His place of defense shall be munitions of rocks. Bread shall be given him. His water shall be sure. Remember, they're going to get water from the rock. They're going to get fed manna from heaven, just like they were before. What happened before will happen again. And as the verse says in Ecclesiastes, history repeats itself. Revelation 12:6 is the last one. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God. They built this place. They probably didn't even know why they built this giant city in the rocks. They had no idea, but now this is why. The woman fled in the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. It's 3.5 years. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. That's going to be us. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down to you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So these poor people are going to have to endure the devil for 3.5 years in the body, and then 7 years total. When the dragon saw that he hath cast unto the earth, he persecuteth the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. Okay, what do eagles do? They fly fast. They fly a long way. So they're going to escape quickly. They're going to give, just like during the Exodus, they were on the wings of an eagle. So that means when they left Egypt on the Exodus, they did not take their sweet old time. They were in a hurry to get out of there. So it's the same thing. They're going to make great haste to get out of here and escape. And the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. The serpent is Satan. So time, times, and half a time. A time is a year. So time, times, and half a time. So you got 3.5 years they're going to be hiding here. All right, and this is what it looks like. So they're going to escape. They're going to make their great haste to escape. And what do you think? They're going to cross at Bethabara, and they're going to come down here, and they're going to be going along the same road that my wife and I were on, down this same highway, all the way down here to Petra. They might veer in here to the mountains for safety. I'm not sure which way it's going to go, but this is the general pattern it's going to go. See, the patterns are the same. Okay, next one. Elijah's coming first. Malachi 4:5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Now John came in the spirit and power of Elijah, and Elijah went up in the chariot of fire. But Elijah will come back again. Like what happened before will happen again. Elijah's going to show up, and he's going to be one of these two witnesses. Most likely it's going to be Elijah and Moses. And they're going to be the two witnesses in Jerusalem at the tribulation temple that's going to be built. And they are going to be his two lampstands. They're going to be telling the truth. So that's going to happen again when he shows up. And the Son of Righteousness, I'm going to talk about this. Here's some verses. Malachi 4:2. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. Isaiah 13:10. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. So it's going to be a day of complete darkness, and this is the day it's talking about right here. 7:10. The seventh month, the 10th day. This is the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. It's going to be completely dark. How scary. Joel 3:15. The sun and moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. There'll be no light at all. They're going to wait for the sun to rise, but it's not the sun that we know of. It's the Son of Righteousness. Mark 13:24. But in those days after the tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. And then we're going to go down to the second coming of Messiah. Zechariah 14:4. And his feet shall stand in that day, this day, upon the Mount of Olives, right here, the same place Jesus ascended from when he left Jerusalem after his resurrection. The same place he ascended from is when he's going to come back. He's going to land in that same spot. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there should be a very great valley. So that means this is going to open up. The mountain, it's going to be a big earthquake. It's going to slide open. And half the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it towards the south. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the shall reach unto Azal. Yea, ye shall flee like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark. But it shall one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light, and the light is from Messiah himself. It shall be in that day that living water shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. So this is going to open up. It's going to be a big valley, and living water will come out from the most holy place of the temple, and will flow out, and will flow into the Dead Sea and make it living water again. And then the other part will flow to the hinder sea. In summer and in winter it shall be, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. Hallelujah. Matthew 24:27. For as lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth unto the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will be eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven be shaken. So it would be completely dark, and then from the east, the Son of Righteousness will rise. So this is our Messiah. This is Jesus. Yeshua will come from the east in the sky, and no one will miss him, because he'll be the only light. Coming in from the sky, he's going to cross right over top of Mount Nebo, right over top of Elijah's Hill, right over top of Bethabara. He's going to cruise right over, and he's going to land in the Mount of Olives, and then he's going to enter his kingdom forever. Rule as Lord of Lords and King of Kings. All right, that concludes our study of our prophetic tour of Jordan. I hope you really enjoyed this. I had a good time putting this together, and I hope it blesses you. Take care.